Life of Saint Martin de Porres. We may not believe the extraordinary happenings in the life of Saint Martin de Porres, much less the ecstasies that he experienced. But we have to believe the extraordinary ways in which he has loved God and his fellow men. The father of Martin de Porres was a Spanish gentleman, an adventurer who fell in love with a Negro woman of Panama, Ana Velasquez. His mother must have felt it a bliss to be loved and admired by one whom she thought of as a great man. But she knew that he would not marry her. She dreamed of a baby who would be a little bit fairer than her. But the baby boy who was born on the 9th of December 1579 was almost as black as his mother. Although Don Juan de Porres did not feel any love for his newborn son, he had him baptized immediately. When Martin was 8 years old, Don Juan took him and his sister for 2 years schooling in Guayaquil. It was there that Martin learned to read and write and increased his knowledge about God. Martin became an apprentice to a certain Marcelo de Rivero. From him he learned how to use and bandage wounds, to set broken bones, and in general, to care for the sick. He also learned how to use a large variety of medicinal herbs and liquids. Even before Martin had mastered all that his teacher could teach him, he had already begun visiting the sick to give relief. This was his apostolate for 3 years, for which he demanded no payment. He was a skillful healer, he was good-natured, industrious, and he was incredibly charitable. Consequently, his fame spread all over Lima. But he was not satisfied. He wanted to do more, a life dedicated to God. Martin had not been long in the convent of the Most Holy Rosary when the Dominican brothers discovered that he was extraordinary. The love of God burned tremendously in his soul. Every day he went about curing the sick, giving alms to the poor, consoling the suffering. His humility was amazing. A strange story was told about Martin's quarrel with the devil. There was a certain sergeant who used to stay with Martin, for they knew each other quite intimately. When they retired one evening, the sergeant heard Martin talking angrily with somebody, and he could hear many blows. Then suddenly he noticed that fire was burning inside the room of Brother Martin, and he was calling for help. When the fire was put out, they went to bed silently, but the sergeant was so frightened that he could not sleep. When they went to see the damage caused by the fire the following morning, they found out that there was not even the odor of burned clothes or ashes. The place was clean as if nothing had taken place the night before. The sergeant was more terrified at this than he had been before. He was sure that the devil had come to persecute Brother Martin. Martin had told his friend Blessed John Macias, now a canonized saint too, that he would die on a day in November. He asked to die in a clean new habit, and told his companions that he had one in his cell. It was one made of a very coarse material, not exactly proper to put on a man whose body was lacerated with wounds. Martin's love for his neighbors was extended even to the animals. They remembered now how he refused to kill even mosquitoes, how he spared the rats from being trapped and killed, how he cared for the mules, and it was never a pretense, for these animals loved him in return. On November 3, 1639, Martin died. He kissed the image of the crucified Lord and closed his eyes as though he were going to sleep, while the community stood around him singing the Credo. Right after his death, when no one as yet had told the world outside the convent that Martin was dead, great crowds of people came to the convent, crying and praying to him. Everybody in Lima seemed to know that Martin had gone to receive his eternal reward. They declared that there was an odor of roses about the body, which a few moments before his death was raw with wounds from his merciless scourgings. One of the greatest miracles that could be recorded in his life is the fact that he lived to be 60 years old in spite of the austerities to which he subjected himself. Martin was never a strong man. His frail body had often been assailed with fever and racked with much pain. The fame of Martin spread over the whole of Peru. They knew that he was a favored child of God, for he worked miracles. He had done so many incredible things. He could raise the dead to life. He could foretell the future. He could read the minds and hearts of men who came to him. He could enter locked doors, and he could be found in several places all at the same time. He was often seen elevated in the air. Was Martin responsible for all these unusual events? We do not know, but we know for certain that Martin found favor with God.